Do you think Ferrari can win a race this season? McLaren is convinced, but the Ferrari chief not so much. Who is right? What you are going to discover could completely change how you see this fight in F1 2025. It all started in one of the most technical clues of the calendar, Hungaroring, a narrow, slow route where the pure performance of the car is combined with the surgical precision of the pilot. There, Ferrari surprised the paddock by placing Charles Leclerc in the pole position, a feat that had not been seen for several races. It was an important blow that ignited the alarms in rival garages. However, the final result was a disappointment for Tifosi. Leclerc finished fourth, far from the podium, due to technical problems and a significant loss of rhythm in the final bars. Even so, this classification performance did not go unnoticed by one of the most lucid strategists of the current Formula One, Andrea Stella. The director of McLaren soon giving his verdict. With a serious but determined expression, Stella said something that shook the entire paddock. Ferrari is ready to win races this season. His exact words were, Ferrari will be a contender for the victories for the rest of the season. Every time we are going to run in the second part of the year, we will have to take into account that both in classification and in the race, we will have to deal with Ferrari. It was not a phrase randomly released. Stella, an engineer with years of experience in technical and tactical management, does not usually make comments based on emotion. When McLaren speaks, the rest listens, especially after the authority with which they dominated in the second half of the 2024 championship and their solid started in 2025. The context of this statement is also crucial. McLaren currently leads the Builder Championship, with Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri in full form, combining youth with technical precision. His car, the MCL39, has been an aggressive evolution of the successful car of the previous year. They won in Australia, rose to the podium in China and maintained a constant rhythm in Japan. That is, they have a maneuver margin to evaluate their rivals without feeling immediate threats. That from that privileged position, Andrea Stella sees Ferrari as a real threat is not an empty praise, it is a calculated recognition, a notice. But you also have to interpret these statements with a more strategic look. McLaren knows that his closest technical rivals are not only Mercedes or Red Bull, who are going through their own crises. Ferrari, although still inconsistent, has demonstrated an adaptation capacity that few expected. Its technical development program has been aggressive, its most stable internal structure, and above all, they have gained an invaluable tool, time. Time to understand your car, to polish errors, and to turn your weak points into strengths. In that sense, Stella's prediction can be understood as a validation of a growing adversary, but also as a way of adding media pressure to a team that has historically failed under high expectations. Behind that seemingly flattering comment, a classic movement is hidden in the psychological war of Formula One. McLaren praises Ferrari publicly to recognize their progress, yes, but also to raise their expectations for the public, push them to a narrative of favoritism that can be difficult to manage. If Ferrari does not win, they will be questioned. If they win, the image of McLaren is reinforced as a visionary team that already anticipated it. In both scenarios, McLaren benefits. That is Stella's master play, to shape public perception and competitive pressure from the speech. In short, Stella's words not only reflect what McLaren sees in Ferrari, they also reflect what they want others to see. In a sport where each statement can have the weight of a track strategy, this unexpected prophecy is more than a simple opinion. It is a calculated maneuver that puts in the center of the debate to a Ferrari that must still demonstrate that it is prepared to materialize that prediction. And if it is not, the psychological blow could be more harmful than any loss of points in the classification. Andrea Stella's words put Ferrari in the sights as the next team to achieve a victory this season. But Fred Vasseur, leader of the Italian team since 2023, was not dragged by that optimism. His answer was measured, sober, and loaded with experience. Something like that is extremely difficult to predict. Because what is certain one day is not necessarily the following weekend, he said, marking distance with the generated expectations. Vasseur knows Ferrari's internal reality well. Since his arrival, he has tried to reconstruct not only the competitiveness of the team, but also his emotional stability. Ferrari has historically been a team that lives on the verge of collapse when things do not come out as planned. The media pressure in Italy is huge and any public promise can become against it in a matter of weeks. Therefore, Vasseur's reaction was not only prudent, but also calculated to maintain internal balance in a team that is trying to recover confidence after years of competitive frustration. Ferrari has introduced relevant changes in his car. The improved rear suspension, the new floor, and adjustments in the aerodynamic balance point to a clear search. Expand the car performance window. However, the solutions applied so far have not completely solved tire overheating problems, temperature sensitivity and loss of aerodynamic load under low adhesion conditions. In simpler words, the car does not yet behave as it should in a wide range of circumstances, and that is a structural weakness in a season with so many different circuits. Vasseur cannot afford to promote victories when his team is still trapped in that technical uncertainty. Instead of promising triumphs, what he has done is ask for time. Time to consolidate the improvements, to validate the reliability of their solutions, and to ensure that the performance shown in Spa and Hungary is not a temporary illusion caused by favorable conditions. Along the same lines, Vasseur's speech also protects his pilots. He does not press Leclerc or Hamilton with public demands. He knows that both have plenty of talent, but they need a predictable car to compete at the highest level. In the background, Vasseur's response also reveals a long-term strategy. Ferrari not only wants to win a race, he wants to be a constant threat again. And that is only achieved when each small advance is validated in real career conditions, not when responding to others with empty promises. While McLaren dominates from the confidence in his technical concept, Ferrari tries to rebuild from the moderation, aware that a false step can cost years of progress. The race is not only against its rivals, it is also against its own ghosts of the past. And Vasseur knows better than anyone. One of the most significant changes has been the introduction of a new rear suspension, which debuted in the Belgium Grand Prix. This modification has a direct implication in the stability of the car in braking and in the ability to better manage gear height, a key factor in tracks with aggressive pianos or rapid transition sectors. Technically, this solution is designed to expand the operating window of the car. That is, allow the SF-25 to perform more consistently regardless of track conditions or the type of curve. This was one of the main weaknesses of the SF-24, whose tuning was extremely sensitive and difficult to stabilize. Team engineers, led by Enrico Cardile, have admitted that one of the biggest challenges is to maintain a constant aerodynamic load on the rear axle without compromising general efficiency. The SF-25 has improved its classification performance, with poles such as Leclerc in Hungary as direct evidence, but in the race it continues to suffer a rhythm drop in critical phases, especially when you need to preserve tires or attack with consistency for more than 5 consecutive laps. This has been particularly evident in tracks such as Hungary and Spa, where the pilots began with a competitive rhythm but then lost positions due to lack of consistency in the compounds. The team has detected that the main problem lies in the dynamic equilibrium of the car under variable load. This means that the car responds well under certain specific conditions, such as full tanks or ideal temperatures, but loses stability when the weight distribution changes or when the fuel level descends. This variability makes the pilots, even the most experienced as Hamilton, are forced to constantly modify their driving style during the race, which is a clear symptom that the car has not yet reached the point of technical maturity necessary to consider it a legitimate candidate for constant victories. The true dilemma with the SF-25 is that its potential exists, but has not yet been unlocked in a full way. It has speed, it has moments of brilliance, but it lacks the key element that distinguishes large cars: predictability. In Formula One, a predictable car is a competitive car. And that is precisely what the current Ferrari is missing. Therefore, when you ask if the SF-25 is ready to win, the most honest answer is that it depends. It depends on the circuit, depends on the weather, depends on the compound, depends on whether they manage to align all the variables in the same weekend. Ferrari is close, but not enough to control his destiny without the help of external factors. The car can win, but you still can't say it is a winning car. Until they cannot close that gap between potential capacity and constant execution, any victory will continue to be a possibility, not an expectation. The SF-25 has proven to have a high roof, but its floor is still unstable. It can shine in specific conditions, but still does not offer guarantees in the full range of variables required by a modern Formula One championship. That irregularity has been the constant that separates the applicants from the champions. And as long as they fail to stabilize their performance in all strokes, Ferrari will continue to be a theoretical threat, but not a real force with sustained weight. The Vasseur approach is then presented as a strategic response to a prediction that, basically, is also a provocation. Accepting it without reservations would mean loading with immediate pressure that can wear out the equipment if the results do not arrive soon. Rejecting it frontally, on the other hand, could sound in the absence of ambition. That is why his speech seeks balance, recognizing advances without falling into the trap of premature euphoria. The victory, if it arrives, will have to be deserved, not assumed as inevitable by foreign comments. Thus, the season continues its course. Ferrari will have more opportunities but also more eyes on. McLaren has planted the seed of a story. The question is whether Ferrari will turn it into a legend or another disappointment in its long path of reconstruction.